let's bring in the Deputy Chair of the Tory Party, Ben Spencer. He's in our Westminster studio, the first official voice to react to the news that basically you've been totally battered.
Well, good evening. Firstly, clearly, if the results of the exit poll are true, it's a very bad and disappointing night for us, and we need to think very carefully about what's happened. I mean, I was going to say not a single vote's been counted yet, but I guess I'll probably get into trouble with Sunderland and Blythe for saying that. But, you know, it is only the exit poll. We need to wait until every vote's been counted, and then we see what the position of all the parties are.
Come on, you're going to be absolutely battered. And Richard Holden, who was basically parachuted into what was considered to be an incredibly safe seat, Basildon and Billericay, the forecast is that he's toast. You could find yourself as chairman by tomorrow.
Well, as I said...
declaring, hold that thought, please. Sunderland declaring.
Sunderland win. Great.
Can I have you, please?
OK.
I am ready to declare the result for Horton and Sunderland South. I, Patrick Melia, Acting Returning Officer, hereby give notice that the total number of votes for each candidate for the Horton and Sunderland South constituency is as follows. Richard Peter Bradley, 1,723. Chris Bernicle, 5,514. Paul Edgeworth, 2,290. Bridget Maeve Phillipson, 18,837.
Yep, so Bridget Phillipson, Shadow Education Secretary up until this evening, has won very easily there in Horton and Sunderland South, and more to the point, Horton and Sunderland South are the first constituency to declare.
Big vote for reform.
Look at the reform result, though. Let's bring in the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party again. I mean, knocked into third place handsomely there. Why did you not get Farage to be part of the fold? Bring him into the fold, because you haven't, and as a result, you're going to pay a heavy price.
I would like to invite...
I wouldn't support Nigel Farage being brought into the Conservative Party at all. But what I would support is...
Let's hear Bridget Phillipson come back to you again. Bear with me.
People have spoken. And if the exit poll this evening is again a guide to results across our country, as it so often is, then after 14 years, the British people have chosen change. They have chosen Labour, and they have chosen the leadership of Keir Starmer. Today, our country, with its proud history, has chosen a brighter future. The British people have decided that they believe, as Labour believes, that our best days lie ahead of us. Hope and unity, not decline and division. Stability over chaos. A government powered by hope, by the belief that tomorrow can not just be different from today, but better. A government of service, a government with purpose, above all to change our society for good. A government determined to build a Britain where background is no barrier, no matter who your parents are or where you are born. Determined to tear down the barriers to opportunity which hold back too many of our children. That is Labour's purpose, and the result today speaks to the trust the British people have put in our changed Labour Party. And after 14 years, as your Labour MP in opposition, I am so proud to be part of a party which has tonight not just won the trust of people here in Horton and Sunderland South, but of the people across Britain. Labour will honour the trust that you have placed in us. I will honour the trust that you have placed in me. And I will work every day to deliver the promises that Labour has made and the better future that we, each of us and all of us, deserve. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Action from the panel in just a moment. Just want to...
And lastly, I want to say thank you to all of the people who've worked hard to organise and secure today's election and counted the votes this evening.
OK, let's just bring in Ben Spencer just to react to that result. Forgive me for interrupting you twice, Mr Spencer, Deputy Chair of the Conservative Party. Just looking at those numbers, you were in third place behind Reform and you had half the vote of Reform. You've got to do something if you're not going to be wiped out as a party.
Well, so firstly, congratulations to Bridget Phillipson on her election. Going back to your previous question about the situation with Reform, as I said, I wouldn't support Nigel Farage coming into the Conservative Party, but what I would say to people who support Reform and to candidates, and, you know, I know there's a lot of disillusionment in terms of how people feel. If, like me, you are against racism, you're against bigotry, you're against misogyny, and you think we should stand up to Putin, there's a place for you in the Conservative Party.
It's Andy Burnham here, Ben. I think what you've just said I agree with, but surely that's what the Conservative Party has to do more. You know, the Conservative Party had voices on the centre-right who would do all of the things that you just said. Isn't the problem that you've been following Reform in their wake, and isn't that why you've kind of lost a sense of purpose?
No, that's very much not what I've got on the doorstep. So during this election, I've spoken to hundreds, if not thousands, of people living in the Runnymede and Weybridge constituency. And the message I get very clear is that people are fed up of Westminster politics. They're fed up of the arguing. They're fed up of the psychodrama. They want politics out of the news. And there's too much politics, is what I hear.
Well, you wish. You wish, Mr Spencer. I mean, they may be getting, you may be having less politics in your life. The exit poll is suggesting that it's too close to call in your seat of Runnymede. You could well lose to the Liberal Democrats, and Reform have taken something like 15% of the vote. I bring it back to the point that you need to, in some way, bring Reform into the fold with the Conservatives if you're not going to find that you will be sliding into oblivion.
So we absolutely need to bring all voters to supporting the Conservatives, and that's not just Reform voters, that's Lib Dem voters, that's Labour voters. You know, people who don't vote for the Conservatives, you know, I think we should very much listen to their views and think about what we've done, which hasn't secured their support this time round. And I don't think that is something that is only impacts Reform. I think it's across the board.
I think one of the things that's really interesting, Kay, is that you're saying that the Tory party has to absorb Reform as a party. I actually don't think that's true, and you would never have said when Labour lost some seats and the Lib Dems were going up that the Labour Party had to absorb the Liberal Democrat Party. So I think what we'll see tonight is, yes, Reform will have taken a huge chunk of voters, previous Conservative voters, away. We will also have lost voters to Labour. You will also find that Reform will have taken voters from UKIP, from the Brexit Party and from the Labour Party.
Before we get into... Ben, can I just ask you, what do you think the mistakes of the campaign were? How did it turn out this way?
How long have you got?
Look, as I said, what I hear on the doorstep, what I've heard in Runnymede and Weybridge from voters is a huge amount of disillusionment with Westminster politics in general. You know, at their core, many people believe in Conservative values. They believe in no taxation. They believe in a smaller state.
Worst result ever.
But what they say to me is they think that politics isn't working and they're fed up. They're fed up in the past few years. They're fed up with the challenges. And one of the messages I've had, again, from a fair few people is, you know, we know that we're in a difficult situation and we get it, you know, and we understand that many of the challenges that are here today that we're facing, for example, all the situation with the previous high inflation, which we've now got down to normal, we recognise that that is part of the impact of COVID, the weaponisation of energy prices, the war in Ukraine. But what we want to see is, you know, a very much... we don't want to see the arguments in Westminster. We want to see a clear focus on that. And I think that's been the challenge.
Bear with me, because Trevor does want to come in, but I just want... we've just crunched the numbers in Horton and Sunderland. Yeah. 13-point swing from Conservative to Labour. Conservative vote down 19 points. Labour up 6.7, Reform up 13.4. Trevor?
That is in the essence here, isn't it? That you first got to, if you wanted to deal with the problem you've got, you first got to recognise and acknowledge what it is. In the result that Kay's just quoted, essentially, your vote halved, Reform's votes doubled. Surely the first thing you've got to do is to acknowledge that fact and try to understand what happened.
So, with respect, Ed, so the first thing we need to do is we need to see all the results come in so that we can judge the discussion in terms of what's happened, not based on one constituency,
and
but
the
on
exit
many.
poll.
Each constituency is a different electoral context with lots of contextual factors which will be related to the campaigns that candidates are running, their reputation, their delivery for local people. In my constituency, I campaigned very hard on improving rail services, supporting our schools, getting better protection from flooding, enhancing access to NHS services, dealing with air and noise pollution and fighting against the ULEZ expansion. Every constituency will have different contextual factors. And so I hear what you're saying, you've got to look at the results and you've got to analyse that. And I suspect there's going to be plenty of analysis tonight and much more for the weeks to come. But what I do think it's reasonable to say that's not just based on one constituency out of 650. We need to look at the whole piece.
I need clarification on something from that results, because you said that the Reform vote was up 13.4%. The Reform has never stood there before. So what are we using as the base? The Brexit Party base. Yeah. Now, in that constituency, UKIP also stood a candidate. So is that the combined vote of the Brexit and UKIP candidates in Houghton and Sunderland South, or is that just Brexit and it's not the combined vote?
Last time, Brexit Party took something like 6,000 votes. The UKIP had a few hundred. This time... They
had 800 and something. They had 1,000, so it takes up to 7,000. So it's gone from 7,000 to 11,000.
Farage's team's got 11,500. So it's more or less doubled. And the Conservative Party vote, which was 13,000 last time, is down to 5,000 something.
It's gone from 7,000 to 11,000. So it's a rise, but it's not,
well,
I've got an answer from Myla, our sophologist.
Oh, right, okay.
That means election expert. She says Reform is benchmarked to Brexit Party. So that's how they've done it. In UKIP, so they're not
counting any of the UKIP seats in 2019. So we're going to just for the purposes of going
actually
forward.
Also UKIP. Sorry, no.
So they're just using a straight transfer from what the Brexit Party had in 2019 compared to what
the thing is, Ruth, we can get technical about it, but the basic point that I was trying to make is that if the Conservative Party wants to deal with what's in front of it, it's got to recognise and acknowledge and say, this is what has happened.
Have we said no? Mr. Spencer is still there. We'll just one more word from you, sir, and then we will let you go. I know it's a long night ahead, and good on you for coming forward to talk to us, because we were struggling to find somebody from the Conservative Party to come and give us the first analysis of the results. Is it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
Look, clearly it's disappointing results. I look forward to seeing tomorrow what the final figures are going to be, and respect the verdict of the British public in terms of how who they want as their MPs. But like I said, I think we need to see once we get more constituencies through to get a better sense in terms of what's going to happen. But obviously, as things stand, it's a very very disappointing result, and it's going to put Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner into power, and all the consequences that's going to have.
OK, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you.